What's up? Today is the 27th of June, and I haven't journaled in a while, but I think I have a talking point today. It's really terrible lighting, but it's fine. Just want to get it over and done with. I think it's good for me to journal again. This camera's pointing to the sky. Let me tilt down a bit. Okay, maybe that's better. But today's talking point is Fran Lebowitz. Fran Lebowitz. It's like she's a famous author, Jewish famous author from the 20th century. So like in the 1900s, I think. She was born in 1950 and then started writing books and then went famous around 1970, 1980, and then she's been relevant since then. I think her influence in just like the modern day culture and the way she views a lot of things it's very raw, and I think it is something that like society is missing nowadays. And I feel like her creative side of things is very unique, but it's also very constructive in a lot of ways. I feel like she's a person who gets a lot of things done. But in the Michael Scorsese documentary called Public Speaking, she raises a lot of like interesting talking points. I wrote it down in bullet points here. The first one is the blind man's Picasso. It is such an interesting concept where she tells a story of this blind man who owned a very expensive Picasso, and the whole ironic part is that like you can't really see the Picasso, but this person held on to it, which means they knew the value of this thing that they couldn't see but kept on holding on to, which to me, my outlook of it as a Christian is, I think, explains the fundamental nature of faith itself, where it's like you see it written in Hebrews 11, where it says faith is the belief of the things unseen, and it's the confidence in the things hoped for. You know what I mean? Where it's like this man couldn't see, they couldn't like look at this Picasso, but they knew the worth of it, so they held on to it, which is such a beautiful concept of when you know the worth of something, you are able to actually hold on to it and persevere through it, which I feel like is the very important part of faith and Christianity, is that like when you haven't experienced God, it's so easy for your faith to come and go and your faith to just be like seasonal and like fluctuating. But my favorite scripture to do with that is, I think it's Matthew 11, if I'm not mistaken, where it's either 11 or 13, where Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, and he's like, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. Those who find it will bury it, sell everything they have so that they can buy that field, because they know the worth of the treasure. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes I feel like a lot of myself and modern day Christianity is this pretending or like buying fields in faith. It's like, oh, I'll buy that field, oh, I'll buy that field. Where it's like, you actually haven't found the treasure. You know what I mean? We're like, Jesus is like, find the treasure, and then you will 100% see the value of it, and you will sell literally everything in your life to buy that field. And it's like, where does it start though? It starts by finding the treasure. And makes me think, and the whole concept of faith and like the whole understanding of faith, like, God, how help me find the treasure. Let me not just do it for the hype. Let me not just do it because that's what everybody else is doing. Let me find the treasure and let me act from a place of conviction, you know. So the beautiful part of that is that like heaven also searches out for us, and it sold everything it has so that it can get us, you know what I mean, in Jesus, God himself. And then the second talking point is, this one was a very like interesting one, because then this is not a Christian documentary at all, but then looking at it through the lens of Christ, you can see like the detail of Jesus in everything. Where she talks about like how the pandemic of AIDS really affected the whole like arts industry, especially like performance in theater and stage performances, things like that. And she describes it as this as like AIDS was that virus that killed the best first, meaning like the whole concept of the more popular you are, the better you are at like the theatrical side of things, the more famous you become, and the more famous you become, the more you get laid, and the more you get laid, the higher the chances are of you getting AIDS, which is like now the first category, like the best of the best would die first from AIDS, and then after that obviously comes the second best, because they will come and replace the best of the best, and then they become famous, and then they become popular, and then they get all these things, and then they get AIDS, and then it's like as it kind of like all the most talented people would build up this career, and then they'll get famous, and then they would all die from AIDS because of like this whole hype of just like becoming like the main in these industries, which was kind of like interesting to think about that, like almost in humility, like you in this season you wouldn't want to be the best, or you wouldn't want to be first, you wouldn't want to be like the top dog or the one at the top, because then you're almost more succumb to fall to this deadly disease of AIDS. You know what I mean? It's like all like the rejects, all the untalented, ungifted people. You're no more regular Joes. They don't suffer from anything, because it's like they would sleep with less people, which decreases their chances of having AIDS. Which is like, is it actually a gift then being good at this? But if it's gonna increases your chances, if it's gonna increase your chances of dying, so it's a very interesting concept. And then he goes on to talk about what makes a good show is not a great act, but it's a great crowd, which is like so amazing. Even if you think about it in a lot of ways, that like what keeps something fun, what keeps something enjoyable is like the crowd itself. You can think about it, you can watch the best football game ever, but if there's no crowd, if there's no atmosphere, then it feels dead. When that translates to everything, you can go to the best DJ sets ever, maybe it's Black Coffee, but if there's no one at that club or at that event, it feels dead. But a great crowd makes a great show. It brings the atmosphere, it brings the vibe, and it's like in the like throughout the times of history, there's a lot of things that have come and gone, and it's like only the things that like excite the people and things that have a great crowd are the things that stay, because then you want to be in that environment, you want to like cultivate that culture, you want to be part of something amazing, you want to be part of something big and grand and spectacular, which is cool. And then she goes on to say the reason people harm themselves, this is such a beautiful talking point, it kind of opened up my brain a lot. She says the reason people harm themselves in the form of drinking, smoking, and drugs is because it is a coping mechanism for themselves, because it is a form of self-punishment for playing the role of God in your life. Meaning that like there are things in our lives that are supposed to be ruled and governed by God. There are things in our lives that God is supposed to kind of take charge and take over and kind of be led by him. But out of this like modern day world where like you want to take control over everything, and you want to like do everything out of your life, where you like trying to exclude God, you are able to do that, but then you are not able to bear the weight of that. It's like you are able to do all these things for yourself, excluding God, but you can't bear the weight of playing his role. So then you almost inflict self-harm as a coping mechanism of you taking this role that was never meant for you. And then this comes out in ways that are just instrumental and things that can harm your life. And it was a very interesting outlook of that. And then she talks on revenge. She's like, she loves revenge, and it's like very interesting. And in that, she's like, what she doesn't like is forgiveness, because then forgiveness is the whole concept of Christianity. Christianity is forgiveness. It is the beginning of forgiveness, because before Christianity there was Jews, and Jews came with judgments saying, hey, you did this, you deserve this. But then Jesus the Christ came and he was like, hey, I'll forgive you. It's like, what? And then everybody runs to Christianity for the sake of forgiveness. And that's where the whole idea of actually forgiving one another, being able to move past being wronged comes from, is Christianity itself. Is the fundamental of the whole faith, is forgiveness, where one man came to die for everyone's sin so that everyone can be forgiven, where like before that everybody was held accountable for their actions. And she's very much that side, because she, I think from my understanding, it came across as she's a Jew, so she's saying she's very much on the side of, hey, if you do wrong, I'll judge you. Or it's like she doesn't accept forgiveness. And it's very interesting that like we can cultivate a culture of forgiveness, but sometimes try to remove Christ from it, where he is actually the foundation and the beginning of the whole idea of forgiveness. And it's like, how do you actually forgive us in him and through him? So yeah, that those are my notes after watching that doc. It is a very beautiful doc, public speaking. Recommend everyone gets time to go watch it. And yeah, 27 July, June 2026.